Good afternoon and welcome to BizTech's ASEAN Midday Market Watch. Our guest today is Kelvin Wong, Market Strategist at CMC Markets. Kelvin, thanks for coming in to be with us.
My pleasure, Brian. Good to see you again.
Now, before we speak to you, Kelvin, let's look at crypto markets. Bitcoin is at 34,210. It's down 2.46%. Ethereum is at 2,191. It's up 3.25%. Now, if we take a look at regional markets, the SGX is at 3,132. It's up 0.05%. Bursa Malaysia is at 1,540. It's up 0.49%. If we look at markets across the region, it's actually a sea of red. The Nikkei is at 28,681. It's down 0.38%. The Shanghai Composite is at 3,588. It's down 0.07%. The Hang Seng is at 28,827. It's down 0.57%. The ASX 200 is down 0.53% at 7,274. Rounding up the numbers, we've got the Kospi, which is down 0.44% at 3,282.32. Kelvin, the markets are in the red. What's the reason for that?
Firstly, I think perhaps we talk a bit of kind of a start of the month portfolio readjustment. So I would say that we do not start to see kind of just a short-term intraday movement for today to actually say that, hey, we might be the start of a kind of a risk-off scenario. Yes, but nevertheless, in terms of market driving news flow, this morning we have China President Xi speech, yeah. So, but I do not think that is a kind of a primary driver that actually driving that sea of red in the markets today. Yeah. Okay. So yes.
And in terms of the Xi Jinping speech, are there any key takeaways that perhaps would impact markets?
Yeah, because if you look at the current speech right now, it's a kind of a more hidden message targeted towards US, telling potentially US not to bother China internal affairs. So this kind of a speech, right? We call it doing a key significant national day in China, which is today the anniversary of the founding of the Chinese Communication CCP, the Chinese Communism Party. So but do not forget, this kind of rhetoric has already been around in the markets for a couple of years since the China trade war started, which is 2 years ago. So to me, it doesn't seem to have any new significant development in that speech. So what we could actually take away from this speech over here is that for what we could see over here going forward with this new US administration led by Biden, the current China, we call it US tension, is unlikely to go away pretty soon. Yeah.
Okay, and overall from a global markets perspective, the market seems to be looking for direction, correct? One of the key things is they're looking for the non-farm payroll numbers on Friday.
Yes. So definitely. So if you are talking about looking for the fresh direction, at least from the short-term perspective, will be the key data, which is out on Friday. I mean, it would say not even US, globally, or non-farm payroll. Why globally? Because it actually it forms one of the metrics, in my opinion, to determine the future path of monetary policy that's going to be undertaken by the Federal Reserve, which is the US Fed. Right. So if you could take a bit of kind of a preview or prelude to this non-farm payroll, will be yesterday's ADP employment change. So that is actually also a US job number, except that it's being compiled by the private sector company. So not pretty rosy, I would say, but not really that hot or fantastic. So what you see that the ADP employment change for June actually added 692K workers, slightly below, I would say below May number, which is what revised downwards at 886K, but slightly above consensus forecast of 600K. So if you were to look at non-farm payrolls, non-farm payrolls actually for this Friday, the consensus is coming at 700K, above 559K in May. But we got to bear in mind that consensus figures, right, has been we call it underperforming. I would say that mean that they came below. Expectation actually came
below expectation,
below expectation since 2 months. which is since April. So actually the actual number came up below consensus. So if that will actually start to play out again for the month of June, we may start to see a bit of risk on coming into the picture. That means what it translates is that the Fed will be less hesitant, or I would say that put in a way that the time horizon to actually start its QE tempering will be not bringing forward, but instead it will actually remain status quo. So that could actually be a beneficial to stocks. So I believe that market participants are waiting patiently or eagerly on these non-farm payroll numbers that's going to be out in Friday. Yeah.
Now, one more thing that's going to move markets is the OPEC Plus meeting today.
Yes.
I think later tonight. What is the short-term price outlook for oil, in your opinion?
Yeah, so before I touch on the short-term oil outlook for oil, right? So let's give a bit of context on this upcoming meeting, OPEC meeting plus OPEC Plus meeting, because there are actually non-OPEC members that are actually pushing OPEC Plus to actually increase the supply slightly larger, in a larger context. Because in the previous meeting, they actually agreed to actually have a supply about around 2 billions per day from the month of May to July. So tonight's meeting is to decide how many more to increase from August onwards. So there's some kind of market circulation rumor that is circulating in the market since about 2 weeks ago, about they're looking at an increase of 500k barrels per day. So that actually didn't dampen the the market's trend of crude oil price. We're talking about taking a look at the WTI crude oil price futures. So I'm looking at it from a technical analysis perspective. The bullish trend, at least in the short to medium term, seems to be pretty intact. So I believe that market is kind of able to absorb this additional increase of 500k. So I'm looking at a short-term key support to maintain this short-term uptrend for WTI crude oil futures will be at 72.30 level per barrel. Then the intermediate resistance will be at 75.70/76.10, which is coming very close to it based on the current price of crude oil, that is WTI crude oil futures, that is trading right now at let me see the price. At 73.61. So pretty close to that level. So that is also close to a 3-year high. So if we could see a breakthrough above 76.10, potentially we could see further acceleration towards the next resistance level, which is at 78.40/79.60, at least in the short term.
Okay, Kelvin, thank you very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Brian.
Now, we've been speaking to Kelvin, Wong, market strategist at CMC Markets on BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch. I'm Brian Fernandez. Check out our LinkedIn and Facebook pages, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thanks a lot for tuning in.